Alright guys, so we are back. We are in a new location. We're actually in my room right now. This is my first time doing a video in my room. We'll see how this goes. This chair is super squeaky. Just listen to that. But anyways, in today's video, we are going to be doing a full in-depth list of what I put in my car to reach the power goal of 350 horsepower. So if any of you guys want to do this build and have it exactly like mine and get in the range of around 300 to 400 horsepower, then just follow this list and you for sure will get there. But before I go any further into this video, I just want to thank ReplaceMyRemote.com for sponsoring this video. They're the #1 place online to purchase keys and remotes for your vehicles, so definitely go check them out. The link will be down below. But with that said, let's go ahead and let's get straight into this. So I was going to pull up the Excel document on my computer, but I have a piece of paper here anyways, and you guys are probably seeing Forza Horizon in the background right now and me in the corner of the video. If everything went well, we'll see what happens though. So I actually split this up into 3 categories. So the first category is everything that went inside the motors. So, you know, inside the engine block, in the head and stuff like that. Now the second category is everything that went on the outside, and the third category is everything that went inside the actual car. So we're actually going to go ahead and start with the inside of the motors. So basically I built this thing from scratch, so that's why it cost me so much money. But today I'm just giving you guys what kind of modifications you would want to do to achieve this horsepower and be safe with it. So let's go ahead and just start from the bottom up. So the first thing was the Eagle forged rods. So these, I forgot how much they were, honestly. I really didn't even care when I was doing the build, honestly. I just wanted to get the build done. But I know they're pretty expensive, but forged rods is definitely something you want to upgrade because these stock ones are pretty dang thin and they're just not as strong. The Eagle ones are much thicker. You could definitely tell that they're made for power and they're definitely not gonna break. So I decided to go with those. There's a couple other brands that you could go with. I'm pretty sure Skunk 2 sells some. If I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me. Now the next thing I upgraded on the car were the pistons. They're 81.5 millimeters, so it's just a little bit over. But I went with the CP pistons, CP forged. And I've seen people use Wastegate. They're not bad. I don't think they're a forged piston though, but I've seen people use those and they have been fine. They're a little bit cheaper, but I just decided to go with the forged ones because may as well just spend the extra money and you don't really have to worry about too much at that point. So I'm definitely not worried about the forged pistons or rods because people definitely bump up the horsepower a lot just on those. But like I said, my block is not sleeved, so that kind of limits me a little bit. So that basically sums it up for the bottom. There's not much parts down there except for the crankshaft. I've seen people upgrade the crankshafts, but personally I just didn't. But then we go on to the ARP head studs. I guess this is the top end now. So ARP head studs are definitely very important. You want to make sure that it is locked down really tight and it's not gonna break or anything like that. You don't want the stock head studs breaking, and they'll keep it together. Now I also went with a Golden Eagle head gasket. The reason I actually did this was because I was really confused on whether you could use the stock head gasket with 81.5 millimeter pistons. Now I saw a couple of things on the forums. People said, yeah, it's fine. Other people were like, nah, don't do this. So the only people that I could find a head gasket from that sold it in 81.5 millimeters was Golden Eagle. So I went with them. I think there's another company called like Cosmetech or something like that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people use those too. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people have great success with them, some people don't, and they're pretty cheap. I think it was only like $40 to $70, somewhere in that range, compared to the Golden Eagle one, which was probably like $150. Now the only other thing I did to the actual motor was SuperTech dual valve springs all around. So I did them on the exhaust side and the intake side. Now I believe with the GSR it already has dual valve springs on either the exhaust or the intake side, but I just did them all the way around. Kind of blanking on the pressure weight I did. Okay, so I did get them in the 70-pound specification. I believe they sell it in something a little bit higher than that possibly, or lower, but I did get the 70-pound and that's what my tuner suggested, so that's what I bought. But you definitely do want to upgrade those valve springs for sure. Now as far as cams go, I've seen people put a little bit of a meatier cam in there and have the adjustable cam gears. You can do that if you want to bump up the horsepower even more, but personally for me, I just didn't want to do it. I was already too deep in the money pit and I just couldn't spend that much money. But maybe in the future I'll build the head, but it is pretty achievable to get around 350 to 400 horsepower with just stock camshafts. So that is it for the inside of the motor. Like I said, I just wanted to go over what mods I put in there. Obviously, you want to put all the stock things in, like the stock oil pump, everything like that. So that's it for the inside of the motor. Now, before we go any further into the video, I want to take a few seconds to thank my new sponsor, ReplaceMyRemote.com. If you have ever lost a key or remote for your car, or ever bought a used car that came with only a single key or remote or none at all, the natural thing to do is to go to your local dealership and get a new one. Now, ReplaceMyRemote.com is here to tell you that they are your best option, not the dealer, for 90% of all the cars and trucks on American roads today. They have a very easy to use website, a make, a model, year search, live customer service, call support, and a chat support feature. You can easily find your correct key or remote and buy it. If you need help finding the correct key or remote, then they are the only company that sells these products with dedicated pros ready to help you. Now, they also sell a variety of key and remote related products like remote covers, colored shells, replacement pads, and batteries. So links to the store is in the description, or just type it in, go to replacemyremote.com. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to what is on the outside of the motor. So the first thing, I was debating if I should put this in the first part or this part. It really doesn't matter, but anyways, I have a stage 5 action clutch. Now, it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's definitely not impossible, and it definitely holds the power really well. So I definitely do suggest you get a clutch that supports a little bit more power than you think you're gonna make on the dyno, just in case, because last thing you want is to have all this power and your clutch slips and then you have to take it apart, buy a new clutch, because they're pretty expensive. They're like $300-400, so you don't want to do that again. Now, the next thing is fuel injectors. Now, I got 900cc fuel injectors. I've seen people even get more, but 900cc should definitely get you to 350 horsepower or even close to 400. Now, the next thing is the Skunk 2 Pro Series intake. Don't really need to say much about that, but you definitely want to have some sort of upgraded intake manifold because you want as much airflow in there as possible. So that definitely does the job. Now, the throttle body I ended up actually going with was a ERS throttle body. It works pretty well. They're pretty cheap. I've heard some bad things about the Skunk 2 throttle bodies. I heard that they stick and they just kind of get worn out after a while. So do your research on that, but take it from me that the ERS one is pretty good. Haven't had any problems with it yet. So the next thing would be the oil sandwich plate. Now, I got ripped off. I spent like $100 on an oil sandwich plate. You could just get away with using the glow shift one. The glow shift one works fine. My friend's been using it on his Honda for a while, and he's had his car boosted for a lot longer than me. Hasn't had any problems. Now, the only other thing that's actually like kind of connected to the motor was just the AN10 fittings for the valve cover to vent the gases nicely. So you definitely want to do that for the turbo car. I've seen people even go up to 4 on it, but 2 should be fine. You want to get those gases out of there as quick as possible, especially on a boosted car. Now, moving on into motor mounts, I went ahead and went with the innovative billet motor mounts. These work fine for me, so those will do the job. It holds it nice and secure in there. It does vibrate a lot though still, but you definitely want something in there to hold the motor tight. Now, onto the turbo kit. So I went with a CX Racing turbo kit. I do not suggest you do CX Racing. Honestly, I drove down there. It's like an hour away from my house. It was kind of a pain in the butt driving up there, but I decided to drive up there just so I didn't have to pay for shipping. Their warehouse is kind of weird. Like, it honestly looked like a Chinese restaurant when I first walked in, and I was like, yo, is this CX Racing? They're like, oh yeah, it is. Because they don't even have a sign. It's kind of odd. But yeah, I do not suggest you guys go with CX Racing. If you guys want to do the kit just to get the piping, I understand that, but I would honestly go with like a precision turbo, spend the extra money. But if you want to, if you have to, and you're on the budget like I was, then the turbo I got was the GT35R. Now, I'll put the oil restrictor in the link down below. I forgot what that was too, but I'll leave it in the link down below for sure, because I know if anybody uses this same setup, then they're gonna have a hard time finding the right oil restrictor. Now, I just have a cast iron manifold in there. I didn't use the one that came with the kit. The airflow isn't the greatest, but it will never crack. Now, I have a 3-inch mandrel bent aluminized steel exhaust throughout the car, all the way to a 3-inch Vibrant Performance muffler. So that is it for the outside of the car. Now moving on into the actual inside of the car, just quick little things. I have an E85 AEM fuel pump. I've seen people use the Walbros and stuff like that, but since I was running E85, I went with the AEM. Now I'm not the expert on fuel pumps, so don't really ask me, but I mean, if you're trying to do the build exactly like I did, then the AEM E85 fuel pump will work. Now a couple other things I had to get was the VTEC sub harness. You guys might already have this if you have a GSR motor. Now I'll try to leave as much links in the description as possible if any of these items are still for sale on eBay, Amazon, or wherever I bought them, so that helps you out a little bit more. Now the other thing you need is the OBD2 to OBD1 sub harness. The last thing you're gonna need is the OBD1 ECU. Obviously they can't tune on OBD2, so you need an OBD1 ECU. So yeah guys, that is basically it. If I left anything out, I will most likely put it down in the description below. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. A little bit of a different video today, but I decided I would go over an in-depth thing just in case some of you guys are doing builds on your own, or get an idea of what I actually put in the motor and what it might take to make around 350 horsepower. So I hope this video helped you guys that are planning or are actually building a motor. Now just another quick thank you to Replace My Remote for sponsoring this video and supporting this channel. Thank you guys so much for that. So go check out them in the link down below. With that said, I will see you guys in my next video. Peace out guys.